right. Hi, Kim. Hi, Eric.
Hello. Hi,
How are you?
Mama.
Hi, sweetie. How are you?
He's good. He says, I'm good. He's dancing and bopping his head around.
Awesome, of course. He's been silly. Well, let's talk about something that I think is very, very important. And I would like to write a magazine article on it. So if you can give me some tips, that'd be great. Becoming your authentic self. I think so few of us are. I look on the campaign trail of all these politicians, and they're just so not acting like they're so robotic. Some of them, it's sad.
Oh, when you said, I want to talk about something that I think is really important. He says, everything you talk about is really important to me, Mom.
Oh,
So just showing a lot of love and support. Um, and then he kind of did this when you talked about the campaign trail. He's like, ugh.
I know.
He's like,
Ugh,
please, it's so full of fluff and stuff.
I know.
All kinds of. And then now the language is getting really nasty. He's like, most of it is a bunch of BS. He says, um, people will do anything these days to sell their self to you, to try to get approval, whether it's through a campaign trail, just trying to be accepted into a group, or even getting a job. Um, but when you try to mold yourself to fit into um, standards and society's rules and what society does and doesn't accept, that's when you pull away from your authentic self. He says, and then in that mixture, when people do that, let's say, for example, he's going to use the example trying to get a job. You really change everything about you to try to get that job, and you want that job so bad. And then you kind of maintain those changes because you got the job.
Yeah.
And he
Oh,
says, and then
that's
that
exhausting.
continues. And that's how people, they really begin to lose touch with their self and lose touch being connected with their authentic self. Um, a lot of people, he says, in doing that, a lot of people, it's based on fear. That's a lot of reason why that happens. People are afraid of rejection,
Hmm.
or people are really, he says, people are really fucking afraid of not fitting in, of not being a part of a group.
Yeah.
They're afraid of rejection, and that's a huge reason why people change all kinds of things about themselves, what they wear, what they say, who they hang out with, what they do. He says, to one of the trends, he's just talking about trends. He says, one of the things that's pulling people away from that right now, from their authentic self, is social media.
Mm.
He says this
Mm.
is a huge culprit because people will post things to sort of he's going he's kind of laughing he's laughing hysterically talking about dating sites. He says that guy that's 6'3" and tall, dark, and handsome is really 5'2" and a little more plump. He
Yeah.
says, but that's what happens is people project something out there that's not true to who they are, whether it's through a Facebook post, through Twitter or Instagram, or even on dating sites. People
So,
are
Eric,
afraid to be their authentic self.
Eric, you peruse the dating sites, do you?
He says, oh my gosh, Mom. He says, I'm not trying to knock it, but it can be a joke because people are so afraid of being truthful about who they are and what they like because they're afraid, or they think, well, if I tweak this a little bit, I might be more accepted. Or if I change this just slightly, people will like me better. So it's
It's
fear
the
of
opposite
being,
with me. I've got my profile picture looks really good, and it was just done, less than a year ago, and so I get hit on all the time on Facebook. And I have to say, believe me, I really don't look like that. You don't know how old I am. So, yeah, it's annoying. But
he's just laughing. He says, well, that happens, and that's a good thing.
yeah,
But he says, it basically boils down to people are afraid to be true to themselves, true to who they are, because of so many fears that surround that. Fear of rejection is the main culprit, and
so what can they
so
do?
he says, Well, he's starting to talk about why do we fear rejection? Why are we afraid of that? Um, he's telling me I sound like a dude. I have bronchitis, so
Oh, you
he's like,
sound the
Kim, you sound
same to
like
me. Well, hey, that's more up your
good.
alley, Eric. You like that. You don't like these mousy girl voices
Oh,
to
that's
come
too
through.
funny. He just looked at me and he's like, you sound like a dude. But anyway, um, he says, so why are we afraid of rejection? Um, Part of that fear comes from if we're afraid we're not going to be accepted into a certain group of people or whatever it is, we actually what we do is if we are rejected, a lot of times what happens is people kind of put that wall up and stop their own personal growth.
Mm,
And they feel that. They may not be able to identify what's happening, but they can feel it. So they kind of start to shut down. And it's a depressed state of
yeah.
being. People don't like to feel that way. So that's why they work so hard to achieve, something different than authentic self, he says. He goes, that's all.
Okay.
No, that's not all. We're not done.
No, no. Give me some tips on how people can. It's my theory, and I wrote parenting books that kind of based on this theory that we are pack animals, so we have to feel this sense of belonging. But there are a couple of ways to do it. You can conform and be what the pack wants you to be, and that creates a society of externally directed approval seekers. Or you can you can contribute something meaningful to the pack and get that sense of belonging and acceptance from that, from contribution, and that allows the person to become self-directed. Just my 2 cents,
He's
but the floor is
yeah,
yours.
he's agreeing with what you're saying, and he says for people out there listening, he says think about it like this: instead of trying to change to fit in, excuse me,
Poor you.
instead of trying to change to fit in, um, he says rather just listen to who you are, honor your natural, authentic self, and then search for. It's kind of like search for belonging within that. So he's giving me, he's giving me, I guess, like stereotypes. Let's say you're just a real pieced out hippie, and that's who you are, and you're not going to change that. You kind of, instead of trying to change that to fit into different types of groups of people, friends and whatnot, find where you belong, find where you feel like you belong. But it doesn't have to be, hang on just a moment. I am so sorry.
No, poor
But
you.
it's been a rough week.
Oh,
um, but he says um, it doesn't have to be everybody just the same as you because that would kind of be self-defeating. But rather, when you achieve or strive to achieve acceptance, make sure that you are staying true to who you are in that. So it doesn't mean like you have to. I'm going to be friends with this group of people because they're just like me.
mm.
Rather, they accept me for who I am. They
Oh,
know how I'm different,
mm.
and basically knowing that that's going to be allowed. He keeps referring to. He keeps wanting me to bring up. For myself, I'm an Army wife, so
Mm.
there's a whole group of us. And I have a lot of different groups of friends. We're all different, but I still feel like for me, and for some reason he wants me to share this, I'm able to just be Kim in
Yeah,
every group of friends.
right.
So make sure you don't have to change who you are based on who you're with,
Yeah,
because then that's just going to uproot you from being grounded in your authentic self, he
right.
says.
So
So
how do you find your authentic self again if you've totally lost it?
he says just truly being he's listing all kinds of things: being grateful for who you are, being respectful to self, allowing and accepting yourself, allowing you to be who you are. Because when you do that, when you say, you know what, I really like this. It's not popular right now. Nobody else, everyone's going to think I'm a freak, but I like it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you honor yourself in those ways, no matter what, that's connecting you back to your authentic
That's
self.
good.
When you accept, he says, when you accept every part of who you are, even the things that you don't like,
Mm.
even the parts where you think, I'm a little overweight here, I'm a little chubby or soft around here. But still being able to accept that part of you is going to help you connect to your authentic self. Um, and he's just saying practice that in many ways. Practice it. The phone's going to stop ringing, I
Oh,
promise.
I don't care. It's probably a
He says,
robocall for campaigning. It's John
oh
Kasich
gosh,
calling, thanking you for the vote.
probably. He calls me all the time. It's
Oh, yeah,
awesome.
sure.
No, but he says, so look around in different avenues of your own personal life and be able to give yourself compassion and acceptance. So if you're struggling in your marriage, um, don't think, oh, I'm a horrible person because I think this. Instead, accept that part of yourself. And in that, he says he's getting all soft and mushy. He says that's the true essence of staying connected to your authentic
Yeah.
self, liking the good and the ugly parts of yourself.
Mm. And that
He
takes
goes, because
emotional
let's admit it,
honesty. That takes a
he
lot
does,
of
it
emotional
does.
honesty. Yeah.
He's like, let's admit it, we all have ugly one way or another. So, but if you
Yes.
can be honest with yourself, and honest with others, gee, I'm not going to repeat that.
Oh, come on, Cam. Bad words?
I don't know. I don't know how it'll be taken. I don't think it's bad, really. But he says, Jesus Christ. He says, it's so much easier to be truthful with who you are and be truthful with yourself and others around you. He says,
Yeah.
love everything about you and love everything about your surroundings, and that will be reciprocated.
Yeah. It seems like
If you try
it'd
to put
be
on a
less effort, you know?
Exactly. He says it's so tiring. And he says, if you try to put on a facade about who you are, a personality, whatever, two things are going to happen. People these days are more awake, Mom. They're going to
Mm.
feel that fakeness,
Oh.
and you're going to get tired of it. And he says you're going to get caught up in it. Like, um, lying eventually will be revealed. So if
Yeah.
just kind of pulling away from your authentic self, trying to be what you're not, eventually you're going to run out of energy to do that.
Yeah.
He says, for what it's worth, if nothing else, let it be known it takes so much less energy to be authentic
And
to
what's the worst that
yourself.
can happen? You know, somebody's going to laugh at you? That's kind of scary.
I love his answer. He shrugged his shoulders. He says, the worst that could happen is you're actually going to find true friends,
Yeah.
true connections, true bonds, and get to know yourself deeper. He says, um, that's what's really going to happen. Because again, if he says you got to ask yourself, he keeps going on this tangent about being fake
Mm.
personalities or whatnot. He says, if you're making friends when you're not being yourself, then you have to ask yourself, is that relationship authentic? Um, and then he's kind of like, that's shaky grounds to be walking on, he
Yeah.
says. So the best thing, he goes, Mom, this is the answer given every time, every question. He says it boils back down to self-love,
Yeah.
working on loving every aspect of who you are and being emotionally honest with yourself and everybody around you.
Is there an exercise that we could do? Maybe we could write out a list of all the things we love about ourselves and all the things we don't love about ourselves and just make it tangible and embrace it. Or maybe there's mantras you want us to say. What exercises can we do so that this is not
He
so abstract?
says, he says, um, connecting with what you love about yourself most of the time is already known. So make that list of what you don't love about yourself. Start there. And subject number one, I don't like my teeth. I don't like my big old round waist or whatever. He says, when you make those lists, when you write those items out, then begin to find ways to take a new perspective. Well, why don't you like your teeth? Is it because you're comparing? Why are you comparing? That's unfair. So he's telling you just to kind of get emotionally honest, he
Okay.
says, but make that list of things that you don't like, um, and start there because that's when truth comes out. That's when real emotional honesty is going to be required. Um, he started saying something. He says the same thing too about relationships. Just, just your environment around you, relationships, your job. Um, how do you feel you're not your authentic self in that? Like, kind of quiz yourself. Am I my authentic self at work? Do I maintain that sense of me when I'm there, or do I change who I am? Why do I change who I am? Because I think maybe the boss will like me more. Why do you
Mm-hmm.
think the boss doesn't like you? He says, really starting to ask yourself those
Yeah.
questions and process um, why it is you're changing. It's he keeps giving like painting the word real big, acceptance. People are so afraid of not
Being accepted.
achieving acceptance. Yeah, one way or another.
But if you have the other way of belonging to the pack, earning your way into the pack, then you tap into the list of good things, the things that you like about yourself, and rely on that. Then, okay, so your teeth are yellow. If you can contribute to team building, or if you make people feel loved, they won't give a flying rat's ass what color your teeth are. So,
That's what he's saying. When you're in any situation, any scenario, if you are more loving of your, sorry,
poor
he says,
baby.
he says, if you are more loving of yourself, more accepting of yourself, that's going to be reciprocated by the environment around you. Again, this goes back to because people can feel or even see sometimes people can see you change
Yeah.
from being in one environment to the other. But if you maintain that constant state of self-love, and sometimes that's hard to achieve for people,
Mm-hmm.
um, but if you can maintain that, your environment around you is going to accept you as you do. So if
Okay.
you don't accept this or that about you, the people around you aren't going to
Yeah.
accept this or that about you. So
They pick up on that
um,
energy, probably.
he says
Yeah.
they do. They're all readers, Mom. They're all turning
Yeah.
into readers. They can read
Mm.
energy.
God dang it, you can't hide anything anymore. Well, that's good. I think that's probably anything else you want to cover before we close?
He says you asked for a mantra.
Oh, okay.
Um, I accept and I love. Okay, he was going to say I love me, but he just stopped it at I love. I accept, I love, I am. He's it's funny. He'll say like I am authentic, and then he's like, no, just keep it at I am.
Okay.
So I am connects you to you. He says,
Mm.
I accept um, self and environment. So, and then he also says, oh, he's razzing on me. um, love is the most important thing.
So I
I
am, I
love.
accept, I love. Is that the mantra?
Mm, yeah,
Okay. See how quickly I said that, Eric?
he's razzing. He's razzing on me. He's like, God. He's like, why do you have to be so prim and proper? He's like, just chill.
That's funny.
I didn't
Quit,
realize I'm
quit
trying
razzing
to
on
be,
her.
but
She's sick. She's sick. All right. Well, thank
oh
you.
my God, it's been a rough week.
Oh, poor. I hope it's going to be a better
Thank
one
you.
next week. I'm going to
It
just
will.
shut
It
down
will.
call recorder and then restart it again. So we start our next session. Eric, I love you, sweetie.
Aw, you know I love you, Mom, he says, blowing you kisses.
Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome. Anytime.